Welcome back to Rome. My guest tonight is in his 5th season as the head football coach at Marshall. His team is sitting at 4-0 as they get ready to travel to Old Dominion Saturday. I am joined by Doc Holliday. Doc, good to have you on. How are you?
Doing great, Jim. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Doc. Thanks so much. You're coming off a big win over your rival, Ohio, the previous week. So what was your message to the team going into Saturday's matchup with Akron?
Well, our message is always the same, Jim. We got to do a great job of preparation during the week. I had great respect for that Akron football team. I'd played with Terry Bowden at West Virginia, and of course for his dad years ago, and Chuck Amata I'd worked with at NC State, so I know they're going to be a well-coached football team. I had the opportunity to watch them against Penn State. They played Penn State extremely tough. Should have gone and beaten Michigan a year ago at Michigan. So I knew they had some really good players. They were very athletic, and I knew we had to be prepared to go play.
So I would imagine you challenge them. They respond nicely. Now, it's still early, but if you had to say, Doc, how different is this group than the one who won 10 games and the Military Bowl against Maryland last season?
Well, they're a more mature group. We got all those guys back, Jim. We got great leadership on this football team, and Cato's a much better quarterback. He probably doesn't have the stats that he had a year ago or even the year prior to that, but he's making just tremendous decisions. He's run the offense extremely well, and the biggest difference in this year and last year, we got some outside receivers on the outside. They're able to make some plays, which is helping open up Tommy on the inside, and our running game's been good.
All right, so what about Cato? You and I have talked in the past, Doc, but tell me about Cato. When he got to campus, he was obviously very different than he is right now. What was he like both on and off the field when he first arrived on campus?
He was a guy, you and I talked before about him, and he was a guy for 18 years that was never told when to go to bed, when to get up, when to go to school or anything. He grew up very tough, went through a lot of adversity in his life, and he's a tremendous kid. That's the most competitive kid I've ever been associated with, and he's just grown up so much as far as the leadership role, the intangible it takes to be a great quarterback, and I'm just glad he's on our side because he's making a lot of really good plays for us.
Doc, I'll go back to something else you and I have talked about, but I'm struck by that once again. You just said once again he's the most competitive kid you've been around. Not the best player you've been around, but the most competitive kid you've been around. You've been around some pretty competitive guys too, guys like Tim Tebow, and he really marks Cato as that competitive, isn't he?
Well, there's no doubt. Philip Rivers, probably the two greatest leaders I've ever been around were Philip Rivers, NC State, and Tim Tebow at Florida. And I'm not saying that Cato is those two guys, but he is more competitive than both those guys, which is hard to believe because both those guys are extremely competitive and had great careers. But he's a really competitive guy that tries to win at every snap, whether it's practice or in a game. And you watch the way he prepares throughout the week in order to go play, and you can see why he makes the decisions that he does.
It's extremely high praise. All right, let's talk about the program for a minute. This is a program with tremendous history. How much time do you spend talking to your players about that, and what are the types of conversations you have with them?
Well, it is a program with great history. Now, I think the last time you and I talked, I told you that I've only had 3 jobs in my entire career, which is unusual in this business. But I was at West Virginia for a lot of years. I was at NC State for 5 with Chuck. Went to Urban, won a national championship at Florida. But there's not a football program in America that means more to their fan base than what Marshall does because of what happened with the crash in 1970 and coming back to become the winningest team in college football in the 90s and early 2000s. And, our fan base, we lost that for about a 12-year period there. We started to get it back a year ago. And right now our fans are extremely excited, our community's excited, our school's excited, and it's our job as a football team to make sure we keep them that way.
All right, so Doc, so far so good. You're 4-0 in the season. There's a ton of football still to be played. But the way the system is set up right now, we know we've got that playoff at the end of the year. I know you'll tell me one day at a time. I respect it. I get it. But if you take care of business, do you feel like you will be at the table when it's time to have that big meal, so to speak?
Well, I don't think there's any question. We just have to play them one at a time. We can't be concerned ourselves with our schedule or anything there. But the one thing I will tell you, Jim, we do have a seat at the table right now. This team went undefeated in the late 90s with Byron Leftwich and all those guys and ended up in the Motor City Bowl. That's not the case right now. If you take care of business and you play extremely well, you do what you're supposed to do, whether it's our conference or the AA conference or the WAC or the MAC or whatever. At some point, if you take care of business, you're the highest ranked team in those non-Power 5 conferences, then you'll have a seat at the table somewhere. So we just got to concern ourselves with trying to get better every day, every week. And up to this point, we've done that, and we got to make sure that continues. So
far, so good. Doc, good to visit with you once again. Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Welcome back to Rome. My guest tonight is the reigning Conference USA Offensive Player of the Year. His team is currently 8-0. They're ranked number 23 in the AP poll. I am joined by Marshall senior quarterback Rakeem Cato. Rakeem, good to have you on. How are you?
How you doing? I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure to have you. All right, plenty of football still to come, but let me check in with you on this. You are unbeaten. I understand it's only 1 week at a time, but do you feel like if you take care of business, if you run the table, do you feel like there will be enough to get you to the playoff, or are you going to need some help?
I just feel like as long as we keep taking one game at a time and just focus on one game at a time, just taking care of business week in and week out, I think everything take care of itself. But I just think that as long as we keep winning and just coming out and practice every day and getting better as a team, everything else take care of itself.
All right, now you're accumulating some pretty big numbers. In fact, you set an NCAA record when you threw a touchdown pass in your 39th consecutive game against FIU back on October 18th. That broke Russell Wilson's record of 38 straight. What about that record? What does that mark mean to you?
I think it's a huge record. I think it's a blessing for not only me but for my team. I think it's a big goal for our offense, just coming out and scoring consecutive points week in and week out for 39 straight games. I just think it's a huge blessing, not only for me but for our offense as a whole.
You probably thought about that, Mark. Did you envision breaking the record the way you did on a 1-yard touchdown pass to Ryan Juracek?
I didn't. Some of the guys asked me about the record. If it was up to me, I'd like to break it for a 99-yard touchdown, but I took it for a 1-yard touchdown.
My man, you missed it by 98 yards. I mean, what about that play? Was that play even in your playbook? Where did that play come from?
It wasn't. It wasn't in our playbook. It was just something that the whole offense know. Once we call it, everybody know what to do on that particular play, and I think it worked. Coach Laird did a great job of calling the play, and I think we just did a great job of executing the play call. All
right, now, did you feel any pressure to get that thing done in your hometown in front of your friends and family the way you did? No pressure at all. I just think that I just needed to come out there and just have a complete game. We wanted to come out there and just by any means get a W, whether it was me breaking the record for a passing touchdown or Devin Johnson and the running backs rushing for plenty of touchdowns to win a ball game. You know, by the way, you mentioned Devin Johnson. He's had an amazing run. He's putting up some huge numbers. I mean, when you see the numbers he's having, did you have any idea that when they moved him to running back, that he had that kind of productivity in him?
I did. I saw it all along. I threw him the ball last year, so some of the plays he made last year, it was just unpredictable. He a great running back. He have a great vision. You run very hard. He's very physical, and he's just a blessing to have on my team.
He's unbelievable. I'm looking at him right now, and he's getting out there in the open field, and he's making guys look bad. We're talking about a former backup tight end. How much easier does he make your job?
What'd you say?
How much easier does he make your job? A former backup tight end converted to running back and running crazier. He's got to make your job easier, I would imagine.
Yeah, he do. I just think that the guys up front do a great job blocking and making the holes big, and he just do a great job of just reading the holes and just hitting the hole real hard and just listening to his coach every day and just getting better every day. I just think that as long as we keep doing that, coming to work every day, taking coaching, getting better as a player, as a unit, and as a team, everything else take care of itself.
You know, Rakeem, you and I have spoken about this before, but not on this program, but rather on my radio program. I think to fully understand where you are and what you have accomplished, folks need to understand where you began. You grew up in the Liberty City area of Miami. Your father was not around. Your mother worked multiple jobs. She raised 7 kids and 3 more who she took in. Can you give us an idea? What was your childhood like?
It was very hard. It was very a big struggle, but I had to overcome it. I surrounded myself around great men who all had the same goals as me, and that was going to school, playing ball every day, and just trying to become successful by any means. And I think that I just followed my dreams and just kept with it and just kept fighting every day, keeping God first, and just trying to stay humble. And I just think that I like my position right now where I'm at today.
Yeah, your position right now is amazing given the fact that your father wasn't around and your mother passed away suddenly when you were just 13. How were you able to overcome that at that age?
Just by faith, just by waking up every day, thanking God, just by praying every day, talking to my sisters, talking to my older siblings, and those guys guided me through life and just having my back through the good and bad.
Now you're unbeaten, setting some records at Marshall, and things are working out great. It's good to have you on the show. Thanks for sharing your story once again, and nice to visit with you, Rakeem. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me.